On this day in Louisville, Kentucky, these 8 men went to camp to speak the words of the Most High Power. And as they had done countless times before, but on this day, they were attacked by a vile mob of heathens and sinful men who sought to take their lives and stop them from raising up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel.
That's right.
However, in accordance to their training and the love that they had for one to another, they fought their attackers side by side.
That's right.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
On to death if necessary.
That's right.
And at the end of the conflict, they prevailed and returned to their homes and to their brethren and their wives and their children. All was lost except one thing they brought back. They brought back the Bible.
That's right.
And delivered it back to this nation.
Shalom, Israel. You know what it is. This is Kentucky 8 Podcast. Shalom, Shalom Israel. Hold on one sec. Shalom Israel. We on the air. We live with Kentucky 8 Podcast. Israelite World News. Bring you world news all over the world pertaining to Israelites, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and the breakdowns. Okay, let's pull up today's first story. First story is going to cover something that definitely concerns our people. Let's pull it up. Shalom Israel. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, share button, all that good stuff, so we can learn the truth. Go to ishbk.com for more information. Learn about your people. Learn about how we get down. Let's make sure we have any sound problems. We're good. Okay. Beyonce and Jay-Z may have commissioned $28 million car that Rolls-Royce CEO calls its most ambitious project yet. Hang on a second. Let me share this thing around. Can you believe this? Beyonce and Jay-Z may have commissioned the world's most expensive car. While Rolls-Royce hasn't confirmed if the celebrity couple are the owners, the car manufacturer did unveil its boat tail convertible for an undisclosed client. The blue vehicle, perhaps a nod to Carter's daughter, Blue Ivy, and their overall love for the color, boasts a number of luxury features, including rear deck with dinner set, parasol, rotating cocktail tables, and a double refrigerator. The price tag, which hasn't been verified by the company, is said to be $28 million. In fact, Rolls-Royce specifically describes the refrigerator's ability to keep the client's favorite vintage Armand de Brinac or whatever at precisely 6 degrees. Hove recently sold 50% of his stake in Armand de Brinac to Moet Hennessy in February. Now, that's basically what this is. This is a story of our people. This is why we don't believe in rich and famous people in the UPK. This is why we don't look to the rich and famous of our people to be our leaders, or to speak for us, or to rise up for us, or none of that. Because at the end of the day, it's nothing but a bunch of selfish, egotistical, rich bastards, man. At the end of the day, That's who you're dealing with. All blacks, Hispanic, and Native American rich of our people, they leave behind the rest of our people in search of more riches, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. They don't know what to do with millions of dollars. Okay, they're not built to know what to do with millions of dollars. Okay, this couple right here, they both sing songs. They made lots of money singing songs. Okay, and they're gonna spend $28 million with a rich company that's already rich. Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce already has millions and millions of dollars. They selling cars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars all the time. And all you did was make the oppressor richer. Because as soon as that car pulls off the lot, it's gonna deteriorate in the value. It's gonna lose value. And it should lose value because our people trust in things, our rich of our people trust in things wherein there is no value. Like our people could use this money to build countless schools and stores and shops and infrastructure for our people. But this couple right here, they don't see that. They're not meant to see it. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna waste $28 million on a filthy oppressor's car. It's $28 million. You could start a business making cars for black people. This is why I don't support any of the black collegiate intelligentsia of our people. People who claim to be so intelligent, they got all these degrees. They was in the civil rights movement and they will roll with Martin Luther King and they rolled with this and they rolled with that. They out for self. They only look for gain for they self. They don't give a damn about their people at all. And this is a couple right here that our people look up to, want to be like, had a nerve to want to be like. When the Lord said, charge them that are rich. I'm about to get that scripture. 1 Timothy 6:17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. See, it's a high-minded thing to spend that much money on a damn car that ain't going to help no damn body in the world. We got our whole people in the island of Haiti. They starving and dying, eating mud cakes. Children out there eating dirt. And that's our people. And we had a nerve to spend money, to spend an exorbitant amount of money on bullshit. On things, like I said, there's no profit. I know somebody going to say, well, it said, give us as richly all things to enjoy. So that means they should just spend their riches on things they enjoy. Let's read the rest of it. Verse 18. That they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate. You're supposed to, with all them riches, you're supposed to do good for your people. You're supposed to help your people out with multiple things. That's why in verse 19 it says, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come. What's a good foundation? That's your good works, man. All the people you help, all your people that you put together, all your people that you put in helped on. At the end of the day, we can't look to these celebrities and singers and athletes and things to save us. They're only out for themselves. They don't care about the people, our race, moving our race forward. They don't give a damn about that. They give a damn about they small-minded people. They're very, very small-minded people. Only care about how great they can look, how great they can be. But as far as our people, they wouldn't give a damn. They ain't like Moses. Moses wasn't like that. Moses had riches and fame. He was in Egypt, kin to Pharaoh. You understand? He was rich, famous. But what did he do? He looked down to the suffering of his people. He looked down to the suffering of his people to see how his people were doing because he cared for his people. He was a real leader. He was a real mighty man. Not like this couple right here who are nothing but small-minded uh, people who do not care or give a damn about their race. Okay, with $28 million, you know how many black people you could hire with that. And it's not just this little couple. It's our people all over. It's all over the world. It's our lead. It's our rich Black, Hispanic, and Native American leaders all over the world who do not turn back and look back on their people. Who do not turn back and look on the plight of their people and how they can help it.
Meanwhile, President Biden reportedly
Let's get this
planning
next
his
story.
big budget proposal. We're told it's a $6 trillion doozy. That's a lot of billions. The 2022 fiscal budget includes Biden's infrastructure scheme and things like his family care plan, raising America's spending to the highest level since World War II. That's an accomplishment. The big question, how do you pay for it? The budget proposal makes no mention of continuing the Trump-era tax cuts on middle and income families. So does that mean everyone will eventually be paying more to pay for this monstrosity? Absolutely. Breaking it down now, the host of Making Money, 2 p.m. Eastern weekdays, right here on the Fox Business Network, Charles Payne. Charles, welcome.
Well, it's great to be here. And yeah, I have been to Cafe Milano, and I'll make sure next time I go, I'll invite you. Now, here's the thing. This thing is so bewildering, Kennedy. It really is. It's one of the largest, if not largest, year-over-year increases for money. We've had big spikes, obviously, in deficit spending, but they were always associated around short-term events, right? World War II, the Great Recession, and shutting off the entire economy, surviving that during COVID. This is something entirely different. And by the way, it's not really an economic plan. The irony here, and maybe it's not so ironic, even President Biden's administration admits the GDP is not going to do anything. It won't do squat, okay? This is all about redistribution and making certain people more comfortable than they are and at the expense of others. But even that's a farce. You could tax every billionaire in this country, and you're not even talking about paying for this. And by the way, it starts at $6 trillion, it ends at $8 trillion. And it's
That's right.
So,
In 2030,
so how do we pay for it? That was your
it
question? Right.
Yeah. There's no way to pay for it. There's absolutely no way to pay for it. And
Right.
the debt to GDP ratio gets so out of hand, all you're doing is committing generational theft. But no one seems to be concerned about that.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, Kennedy, because it's being sold as something else. It's being sold as social justice, right? And people who are listening to that, they're not listening. No, it is. It's being sold as this is the way it's being sold to the American public. All the things you and I are talking about, the debt to GDP. Tell me if you hear anybody talk about that tomorrow. This is only being sold as a way of leveling the playing field, getting social justice. I'm not saying that's what it does. I'm saying that's how it's being sold. We want to get child care. We want to get this care. We've got a great giant welfare society being assembled right now. And it really, it's going to, when inflation goes up, we're going to be paying trillions of dollars a year on the interest. This will see deficits, trillion-dollar deficits for as far as the eyes can see, and it will be so detrimental to every single person in this country, more specifically the poor and lower middle class, without a doubt.
Yes, they're the ones, whenever you have
Salakia. All the marbles is going to be given up. Like I was saying, Salakia, I'm going to say it all over. Don't trust in this system. Yeah, the numbers don't add up. Yeah, it doesn't add up because it's not meant to add up. It doesn't seem like, creating all this debt, so it's going to be a problem later. It will be a problem later for this kingdom. It should be a problem later for this kingdom. Like, how can you say that? You live in America too. We live in two different Americas. The America we live in is not the America they live in, where they're raking in billions of dollars. We are not concerned with that America. We're concerned with blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. In the Great Depression in the 1920s, black people had Black Wall Street. We didn't need to depend on the white man. And we're going to get to that day again where we won't have to depend on him. Let's get more.
An economy that is hamstrung like this and economic mobility goes out the window, the people who need economic mobility most, the ones who've never had it. And when you have an economy that's firing on all cylinders and you have companies that are hiring and investing, that's when people rise up out of poverty and extreme poverty. This just continues cycles of dependency.
It's so amazing. We've got over 8 million job openings, the most in history. Household balance sheets are clean, $1 trillion in excess savings, wages. I mean, everything you would want in an economy. The V-shape that began last summer, has gotten stronger. In fact, in many places, as a check, we got a housing boom, a manufacturing boom. We are firing on all cylinders, and they're passing, or they want to pass, some of these emergency sort of bills, and the president keeps selling it as if we're still like this is April of 2020 or May of 2020 and not May of 2021. Things have changed. We've combated it. We're coming out of it, and we're coming out of it. We could be a lot stronger. We don't need to go to a dependency type of economy because that's not how we became the greatest country in the world.
Now, what you're seeing is a brainwashed black man. This black man right here on the screen really thinks he's American. He thinks America and him are on the same page and work together. Little does he know, he's talking about our country's on the rebound and our country's doing this and our country's doing that. He's not America. Black man, Hispanic man, Native American man, you're not America. As much as America comes up, it means nothing unless our people came up. You understand? Because if we intertwine our destiny with the oppressor, if he goes up, then we go up. If he go down, then we go down. If we do that, we're going to be destined to fall. We're going to be destined to fail because the Lord said, separate from her. That's why it's important to get into the Israelite school of UPK. Because you come into the Israelite school of UPK, and we're building our own nation. We're building our own people back up. We're paying our own taxes to ourselves. We're not trusting on the oppressor's system. We have our own system. As long as you trust in the oppressor's system, you're a slave to his system. You're a slave to his way. Let's get more.
In the first place.
Yeah, and we need to go back to that economy that was absolutely soaring. And Charles, before you go, I want to talk about the Reddit investor mob because they are back. The clothing retailer Express up more than 33%.
See, this black guy,
GameStop
he thinks he's white.
50%, and movie theater giant AMC inexplicably up 109%. So help me out, Charles. Should I be putting my money into these meme stocks, or should I just be?
How come we didn't do? We should have done this segment a month ago.
I'm gonna kill it on that. So at the end of the day, the American economy is going to do all types of things, but we can't intertwine our fate with America's. All right. Personal income plunges as stimulus check boost fades. Inflation runs hot. Yeah, they sent out all this money, but then they increased the price on everything. They increased the price on everything. Like I said, they always got a scheme. They always got a scheme of things. All right. And we wasting our time buying $28 million cars as a people, as opposed to building up our own infrastructure, building up our own kingdom, building up our own people, building up our own race. The scripture says the kingdom of heaven is within you. So that means our people, building up our people is what's the kingdom. What's gonna get us the kingdom. Not trusting in the riches of America. Let's get to the next story. Texas man who planned mass casualty event. You mean a massacre? You mean murdering tons of thousands of people? Hold on a sec. At Walmart had assault weapons, racist symbols. Hold on. Let me see. Give me a second. I'm about to pull it up on another website. This story. I don't know why they. Okay. Okay. Texas man accused of planning mass murder at Walmart is arrested. Our investigators did outstanding work in this case and possibly saved many lives, the Kerr County Sheriff said. The plot interrupted in this case is unthinkable. Man accused of plotting unthinkable attack on a Texas Walmart has been arrested and charged with making a terroristic threat. Last week, investigators intercepted a message indicating that Coleman Thomas Blevins, 28, of Kerrville, Texas, was planning a mass shooting and had mentioned Walmart, according to a news release. After arresting Blevins on Friday, authorities discovered firearms, ammunition, and radical ideology paraphernalia, including books, flags, and handwritten documents. Blevins on felony probation and prohibited from possessing firearms. Officials said he was booked on a $250,000 bond, where he remains. Kerrville is about 65 miles northwest of San Antonio. The county sheriff's office worked with state and federal authorities to arrest Blevins. This case reminds us that we need to always be vigilant. Many think that can't happen here, and it is well on the way to happening. Our investigators did outstanding work and possibly saved many lives. This is what right here. It said had tons of racist paraphernalia. These school shooters, okay, that's what they are. These are school shooters who coming to the next level, who graduated high school, who ain't got to shoot up the school. Now they ready to shoot up Walmarts. They're all over the place. Murderers, man. The scripture says he was a murderer from the beginning. That's why I said it's important to separate from these people. It's important to separate from these people because they cannot be trusted. It's no telling what type of diabolical plots that these people have in their minds every day. You don't even know. It's just a regular old devil. You think he's regular old guy. You think he's Jim Bob from the job. Little do you know, he's planning to kill everybody in there. He's planning to go postal. Okay? We can't trust in these people, thinking these people are great, thinking they're amazing, thinking they're smart, thinking they're this. They're nothing but a bunch of murderers. That's all they are a bunch of murderers. That's all they want to do is murder. steal, kill, and destroy. That's their job on the earth. Your job, black man, is to be the children of the Lord, man. Represent the Most High God on this earth as children of the Lord. Not be a murderer like this man. ISUPK warned our people about these things. It's going to continue to happen. They stopped this one, but there's a dozen more that's on the way. Let's get this next story. It's a big one. Get right with the Most High, man, so you don't get caught up in the war that's to come. Mass grave of 215 children in Canada, a stark reminder of the dark history of Native American boarding schools in United States. Wow. Over 200 bodies found at Canada Indigenous School. The remains of 215 children, some as young as 3 years old, have been found buried on the site that was once Canada's largest Indigenous residential school, one of the institutions that held children taken from across the nation.
Heartfelt and the past few days have been very, very heartfelt and very hard for our community, hard for the leadership. It was shocking at every single level. And, right now, our community is grieving. The Kamloops was the home residential school since the 1890. And, we all know that many of our consultants and relations came to residential school, not by choice. Try to even imagine what other parents, mothers were going through, and knowing that they have lost ones was very hard. We all had to take time to absorb, what we were told, what we've seen, and we're still grappling through the effects.
Story is so bad they don't even want to talk on it. She ain't giving no details or nothing. Let's read the story. Curtis Carr was just 9 years old in 1927 when he and his brother were sent to a boarding school for Native Americans in Chillicothe, Oklahoma. He started running away in 1934 and was picked up and returned a couple of times and successfully made his last escape in 1935. Carr's daughter and a professor in the School of Social Transformation at Arizona State University. He survived it, but he reacted very strongly against the authoritarianism. Like tens of thousands of indigenous children and teens, Carr and his brother attended one of the hundreds of government-funded and largely church-run indigenous boarding schools established across the U.S. and Canada in the 19th and 20th centuries. Many children were physically and sexually abused at the schools. And up to 6,000 children, they killed off a whole generation of children, died at schools in Canada, according to government officials. Reports Friday of a mass grave containing the remains of 215 children found on the site of Canada's former Kamloops Indian Residential School are a stark reminder of the dark history. Wow. Like, how do you kill a child, man? They're not even going into or breaking down how they killed a lot of these children. Went through starvation, strangulation, probably all of the above. Beatings, stabbings, shootings. How do you kill that many children? It was obscene what happened in Canada. And I know from speaking to survivors of Indian boarding schools in the United States, this was not isolated to Canada. The Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Center at the University of British Columbia and a member of the Muscogee Lake Cree Nation. An unthinkable loss. Okay. There's been tremendous impacts, it says. More than 350 Native American boarding schools across 30 states to implement cultural genocide through the removal and reprogramming of American Indian and Alaska Native children. Hundreds of thousands of Native American children in the U.S. were voluntarily or forcibly removed from their homes and families and placed in the schools. There's been tremendous impacts on individuals, families, and communities. And see, they're not getting into the story like I want to. They're not breaking down shit of what happened. They're just talking about it. He's saying this freaking there was schools for children. There was schools for children. They're not telling you what was going on at the fucking schools. All right, here we got something. The schools were overcrowded and unsanitary and provided poor education and medical services. A 1928 report known as the Merriam Report found children were malnourished. Diseases spread rapidly, and the schools relied on manual labor, the report said. So basically, they malnourished the children and worked them to death. Lamona said her father lived on the streets once he escaped from the school and eventually ended up at a civilian conservation corps camp. Late in life, he acknowledged that he learned things at Chillicothe that he was grateful for, she said. But I think being away, unable to go home over the summer, it very effectively fractured his relationship with his mom. They never had a meaningful relationship. Look at that. Destroyed that brother's life, relationship with his mother. Lamona, who interviewed more than 60 former students for her 1994 book on Chilocco, said the experience of students varied greatly, particularly depending on how old they were when they entered the school. And some reported positive, blah, blah, blah. If there was motherfuckers getting killed and dying, then ain't nothing positive about that. All right, they still not giving a lot of the details. They said it was overcrowded. See, this is why the oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. And not getting into how over 6,000 kids died. It says down here that it is unclear how they died. Well, where's the fucking autopsies at? Excuse my language. Where the damn autopsies at? You could dig them up and check their bones and find out how they died. People placed 215 pairs of children's shoes on the steps of the Vancouver Art Gallery as a memorial to the 215 children whose remains have been found buried at the site of former residential school. Let me see if we can find something else about these boarding schools so we can get more of an idea of what we're reading here and what our people been going through. All right. Here you go. Canada's Dark Secrets. This is it right here. In here, that's where they beat, murder, molest Native American children, man.
I got frightened when I was a little girl when the principal used to beat up the other children like boys. The boys got the most beating. They used to call it bench party, and it was usually done after supper. And that's where I got frightened because I saw blood.
I remember when
Look
we
at
had to
that.
shower. You only have to show me how to shower and clean and wash myself, how to wash my private and my private parts of your body. You don't have to show a kid once or twice at the most, but not every day. And have the supervisor come in there and basically take advantage of you.
I just remember arriving there and
Mm.
donning new clothes and, of course, getting a haircut and sitting in a classroom and being with other girls and witnessing my brother get punched by the supervisor.
So they are beating these children. Straight up terrorizing these children. This is what they done to our Native Americans. This is what they doing to our Mexican children right now on the border. Taking them children away from their parents and beating them, punching them, kicking them, slapping them, molesting them, treating them all horrible ways. So those children will never come up against the oppressor. That's what they hope. And their hopes in this is that we'll beat these children. So when the children grow up, they'll never rise up against us. They'll never rise up against the Caucasians.
My name is Alice Little Deer. I'm 78 years old. I spent about 8 years in residential school.
My name is Raymond Mason. I'm 62 years old, and I attended residential school for 12 years.
I'm Madeline Dion Stout. I'm 62 years old. I'm from the Kihiwan First Nation in Alberta. I attended Lukos Residential School for 36 consecutive months. That would be 3 years.
In order to educate the children properly, we must separate them from their families. Some people may say that this is hard.
Right there. That lets you know what the oppressor is thinking. That's why the Mexican children are being separated at the border right now. For this same reason. They said in order to properly educate them, you got to separate them from their parents. What are they trying to educate them for? They're trying to educate them to fear the oppressor, to be scared of the Caucasian, so they can never rise up and become a people. They'll always be beat down and destroyed in despot. In despot. That's why they're taking the children from the parents now. That's why they did it back then. He's telling you right there.
But if we want to civilize them, we must do that. A federal cabinet minister, 1883.
I remember them taking me away from my mother and my stepfather. And I can hear them telling my mom that that was the best thing for me, and that not to worry, I would be looked after.
Our parents didn't want to worry us unduly and tell us and warn us that we are going to be separated for a long, long time with barely a visit.
I see him come around, Indian agent in a boat with the principal, then collect some children from the reserve. Mm-hmm. Then he would come back again, come and take some more.
So the next day, I woke up with hundreds of total strangers, my size, my age, and not knowing, what are they doing with all of us here? Why are there's so many of us here, and that's where a lot of my whole life really started to change, because I got strapped. I got beaten up for speaking my own native tongue. I even had my tongue pulled out and pinched.
My
Look at that.
strongest memory there is
They're trying to make sure to beat their native tongue out of them. That's why they took them from their parents at a certain age, so they wouldn't learn the customs of their parents. So the Native Indian customs wouldn't get passed on to the next generation.
When the little girl died beside me, she must have been about 6. I was scared why the parents were not there. That's what I was scared about. And I knew they wouldn't feel comfortable for not being there when their daughter is dying.
And do you know why they weren't there?
They were never notified.
Indian children in the residential schools die at a much higher rate than in their villages. But this does not justify a change in the policy of this department, which is geared towards a final solution of our Indian problem.
Final solution. Well, you'll see that final solution. The same one who said that was Hitler. Okay, Hitler's Holocaust was also known as the final solution to the Jew problem that they were so-called having in Germany. So as they use the reference final solution again, you know why. Because it's a genocide. It's a final solution to kill them off. This is a solution to kill off the Native Indians. They're killing them. They're killing them, the children ones. And the ones that do survive, they're going to not care about Native Indian culture, Native Indian life, or their Native Indian brothers and sisters. They're going to have no life. Their culture will be destroyed and wiped away. This is AKA final solution, which is at the end of the day, genocide, killing them. Killing our brothers and sisters, killing us.
Campbell Scott, Deputy Superintendent of Indian Affairs.
At that time, they never told us that our sisters were across the hallway. And I didn't know that for the longest time. Then I spotted my sister, Nora, and I was so glad and so hysteric. And I went running to her and I reached onto her, and just hugged her, and I was just shaking, and terrified. And I was wondering why she was pushing me away. I didn't realize that we weren't supposed to know that we both lived in the same place, and we weren't allowed to speak to each other. We weren't allowed to talk to each other.
This is exactly what the what the Mexican brothers, Mexican children are going through right now on the border. That's why they're taking the Mexican children from their parents on the borders. And then they have them in the border and make them so they can't talk to each other. Make them so they can't talk Spanish. If they see a relative, they can't run and hug them. Have them in cages. And this is who you love America. You still love America, don't you? You still want to celebrate Memorial Day. You still think this place is great. You think this place is amazing. What you don't know is you celebrating death. You celebrating destruction. You celebrating evil. That's why the Lord said, separate from them, or else you'll be partakers of their sins. That's why that black guy, he's like, oh, us and we, America, we're doing great. We're doing this. Negro, you not American. And don't try to attribute black people to being American. We not American. We not a part of this damn place. Not a part of this society or this kingdom or none of this shit that they do. We are the victims of this damn place. We are the prey of this place.
I can remember the principal grabbing a hold of me by the hand, and I was jumping off the floor like that, and he stripped me. And he started whacking me with a long webbed strap. He was setting an example that, if you do this is what's going to happen to you. And all the other boys were watching, and the girls were still going through.
Look what they did to him. Try to destroy his spirit. That's what that was. Stripping him naked. It wasn't the beating that was the crucial. That was bad. But it was doing it in front of all the other little boys and girls that really tries to destroy. That's the part where they're trying to destroy his spirit, trying to embarrass him so much so where he could never recover. He'd be so destroyed behind that, so emasculated. All right, so shamed. That's what they did with that. That's why they doing that.
Their education must consist not merely training of the mind, but of a weaning from the habits and feelings of their ancestors, and the acquirements of the language, art, and customs of civilized life. Edgerton Ryerson, 1847 Report for Indian Affairs.
Visits from my parents were very rare, but I do recall one visit when my mother and father came. And I remember specifically my mother's red tam, that splash of color. I remember her getting out of the wagon, and I was crying already watching them because I was missing them already. They hadn't even walked through the door yet of the residential school, but I was missing them already. And when they were actually leaving, I cried until my nose bled.
And you learn pretty quick after getting those guys.
Look at that. Cried until her nose bled. Look at this, the pain and suffering that they putting them children through, all to get them away from their Native Indian heritage. Get them away from caring about their ancestors. Get them away of caring for their people. To destroy their souls.
Beatings. Not strapping, it's literally beatings, you know. And ever since that day, I tried to run away. And I made friends with a guy by the name of Donald Atkinson from Rosa River First Nation. And we planned to take off. And when we got caught, we paid for dearly, you know. Not only the RCMP gave us a licking, but the bigger boys that was helping them chase us down.
Were you angry at your parents?
They even made the Native Indian children fight and kill or beat on each other. They even made them beat and fight on each other. All right.
Parents that they made you go to school?
Sometimes I would think about them. I get mad for all giving me here, sending me over there where all the bad treatment is. And
Tell me how you felt when you saw your children go to that school.
well, I felt sad. My first two boys went. And then a couple of years after, the next two boys went.
So then they got to send their own children. They can't even raise. They wasn't even allowed to raise their children. And they say, "Oh, that was all in the past. That was all in the past." This lady only 70-something years old, 78. Means her children, she couldn't even raise her own children. After she gave birth to her children, she spent a little time with them. Then she had to give them away and have these devils beat on them and oppress them and try to destroy their spirits and even probably kill them. Look at the pain, the suffering that we had to undergo under these people. And then, but you got these Christians, these fucking, excuse my language, these damn Christians who don't understand the Bible, who don't understand the scriptures when Christ said, forgive thine enemy. They don't know what he's talking about when he's saying that. They got us talking about going back and joining this oppressor. After all this.
And so on. As they got older, yeah. I told them to be strong. I had always told them to be strong, to be able to take it like the other children.
So you sent 11 kids to residential school?
Mhm.
How many of them do you think were strong through that?
None of them.
Mm.
None of them.
Had to send all. She couldn't raise none of her 11 children that she birthed. All of them had to leave.
What about your children? How do you think it affected them being in residential
Well,
school?
like I said, a little bit crazier than before they went to school. Their mind was a little bit more intact,
Mm.
staying at home with us.
Said their mind was intact. That's why I said we destroyed. They was more crazier.
They knew how to hunt ducks, and they knew how to fish, and they knew how to snare rabbits and pick blueberries. Today, you don't see that.
Taking away all their independence, their way that they could live off the land without trusting and trying to have to depend on their oppressor. They took that away from them. They stripped that of them children so they can always have to depend on the oppressor. That's why we need the Most High. We need to turn to the Most High. We cannot sit back and think that the Lord does not have a say in this matter or what happened to us.
And you think that's the school?
Yeah. Everything destroyed in our world. We didn't bother white people. White people bothered me.
Mm. Look at that. There you go.
Indian culture is a contradiction in terms. They are uncivilized. The aim of education is to destroy the Indian.
There you go.
Nicholas Flood.
There you go. Destroy the Indian. That's what we brought out. That's what they're doing to the Mexican. They're trying to destroy the Mexican children.
David Report, 1879.
There are three reasons why I think residential schools are a blot on the Canadian landscape. One is that we became strangers in our home and native land. Two is that nurturing relationships between parents and children were severed. Residential schools were a frontal attack on parenthood. Three is that it added to our mental stress in a very real way.
My name is Michael Loft. I'm from Ganawagi. I'm 55 years old. Okay, and my dad attended residential school for 11 continuous years in Spanish, Ontario. He says, and once he told me a story where they were so bored, they were in the cafeteria, and they would just walk in a circle, because they couldn't just go run around, willy-nilly all over the residential school just because school was out. They had to be controlled, I guess, had to be contained, and so they would walk in circles, in the
Wow.
cafeteria, round and round and round and round.
Wow. Look at that. They got them walking in circles. That's what animals do when you put them in cages. That's what our Mexican children are going through right now as we speak. America has never changed. The same evil they did back then, they're doing right now. 40, 50 years from now, it's going to be some Mexican men saying that how they was walking in circles in the cages in the boarding on the border, and how they were beaten, how their kids was getting killed.
To deal with their boredom.
My name's Lorena Fontaine. I'm 38 years old, and both my parents and grandparents went to residential school. I was at a conference.
Her parents and her grandparents went to residential school. Destroyed many generations of her and her family.
That my mom was speaking at. She was giving the keynote address, and she started talking about her residential school experience during her speech, and and that's how I found out. Well, I was of course, I was shocked and appalled, and I just felt so terrible for her. I felt frozen when I was listening to her. And it wasn't until after she finished speaking that I started thinking about our family life. I started thinking about the abuse that was very prevalent when I was a child. And I started putting connections together.
He never knew when he was going to get hit in residential school. That's the thing. So he lived like in fear of getting hit. You break a rule, you get whacked, you know? So it was unpredictable. You know, you couldn't, you could try to learn the rules as best as you could, but I mean, you're a kid, you know, you mess up and whack, you know? So there was that unpredictability that he brought home too. And the same thing with us. We didn't know what was going to happen, you know, next. So scary.
I was raised by parents who never had a childhood, and they didn't have any parents as role models. So we were vulnerable children. And a lot of us were abused ourselves as young children. And I also realized at that point that one of the people who abused me in my family had been a residential school survivor, a family member. And I understood why now, why I was abused.
The great aim of our legislation has been to do away with the tribal system and to assimilate the Indian people in all respects. Sir John A. Macdonald, May 2nd, 1887.
He got out, you know, like everybody gets out at 16. And he eventually made his way to Aguizasne, to his home. And he told me that he couldn't connect with them. He couldn't connect because he couldn't speak the language. He didn't understand the culture. So he couldn't take it, you know. He was frustrated. He was going nowhere. So he went back to the residential school for one more year because it seemed like that was home now. That was home. And that's where he could, you know, they spoke his language, and so that's where he went.
Divided them and destroyed them. Made it where they don't even want to go home because they can't even understand their family. This is how you kill families. This is how you destroy families right here.
Knowing my language, and in fact, I kind of felt a bit ashamed about our language and our identity because it seemed like they were, meaning my parents and my aunts and uncles, were ashamed too in some way because they didn't want to talk about it and they didn't want to share with us about who we were.
There was a lot of fear. I think the fear that they put in him, the terror that they put in him. I mean, he managed to bring that with him, and it went into our family, you know. And I learned terror and fear and all that as well as a child. I put fear in my sons too. That's all I knew, you know. When they were doing something that was right, I would put fear in them, you know.
There you go. That was the purpose, so they could fear the Caucasians, and so they can in hopes that they'll never rise up against them. That's why it says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he will overcome at the last. That's what the scripture says. So Gad is going to come back and overcome. But their attempt was to try to take them down with this, with putting them in these boarding schools and treating them like this.
Our objective is to continue until there is not a single Indian in Canada that has not been absorbed into the body politic, and there is no Indian question and no Indian department. Duncan Campbell Scott, Deputy
They're
Superintendent.
trying to wipe
of Indian
away
Affairs.
them knowing that they're even Indians.
Generally, the survivors of residential school do not commit suicide any more than the general population. Okay. It's the children of the residential school survivors who commit suicide in incredibly high numbers. 6 to 7 times, the provincial average. Okay.
It might just take one person to start talking about it, or perhaps a family to start talking about the fact that there is abuse, and the reason why there's that abuse is because of the residential school experience. That, we're not abusive people by trade. We're not, we weren't born that way. And to be able to, I think families need to be able to realize that they're not alone, that none of us are alone anymore, that we have each other, and that it's okay to start talking about it.
We don't have the monopoly on pain and hurt, but we have and have carried a disproportionate share of it over time. And I would really like us to move forward, not to erase our memory of who we are, because residential school is certainly a part of who we are. I'd like us all to be a part of a team that really makes a lasting difference for not only residential school survivors, but the other little children who are having difficulties today.
We're gonna end it on that note. You see what our brothers are going through. You see what our Mexican children are going through right now. This is what's going on, and this is what the country, the kingdom that you want to align yourself with. Black man, don't do it. Don't align yourself with this kingdom. Don't consider yourself American. Consider yourself an Israelite. You understand? Or the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. We in captivity in this place. We still in bondage. We still in hell. Until we get back in Jerusalem and our land and our power, this ain't over. We're not in no land of freedom or none of that shit. We still in captivity. Get right with the Most High now so the Lord can get us up out of this thing. Go to ishbk.com for more info. Learn the truth. Get right with the Most High. There's only a little bit of time left. Get in the class near you, with the schools near you. Change your life. Repent. Bring forth fruits, meet for repentance. It's time now to get right with the Most High so we can end this madness. End what our people, end this suffering that our people are going through, that all the tribes are going through. And I'm speaking to my Mexican brothers too. That's how we're going to end that your children of your tribe ain't going to be going through this. That more Native American children won't be going through this. That none of the tribes have to go through this. So we don't have to have generations of dead children, murdered children, beaten and beat down and tortured. You understand? Have their culture beat out of them. It's time to end it. Get right with the Lord now. Send your tithes, 10% of all money you earn. Go to the men of the Lord. Go to ishbk.com to pay that. With that said, shalom.
On this day in Louisville, Kentucky, these 8 men went to camp to speak the words of the Most High Power. And as they had done countless times before, but on this day, they were attacked by a vile mob of heathens and sinful men who sought to take their lives and stop them from raising up the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel.
That's right.
However, in accordance to their training, and the love that they had for one to another, they fought their attackers side by side.
That's right.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
On to death if necessary.
That's right.
And at the end of the conflict, they prevailed and returned to their homes and to their brethren and their wives and their children. All was lost except one thing they brought back. They brought back the Bible.
That's right.
And delivered it back to this nation.
Shalom, Israel. You know what it is. This is Kentucky 8 Podcast.